He had no luck in love all his life. He was unlucky, mainly because he always believed that studying was more important. True, the girls who looked at him thought otherwise, but he didn't notice them at all. But, to be unlucky like this time, this had never happened to him before. He successfully completed his studies last spring. Now he worked as an assistant at one of the departments of his native physics department and taught physics at a school near his home. He also intended to make many scientific discoveries, two of which he was now closer than ever, and he was passionately and hopelessly in love. He was passionate all his life, but he was never in love. But here, his always sober mind was powerless. He was probably not in love with each other. He didn't know for sure and suffered terribly. And his conscience wouldn't let him hope for reciprocity, but he hoped anyway. The fact is that his beloved studied at the same school where he worked. Last spring, she was transferred to the 11th grade with great difficulty. It was as if she represented everything that he had never done. She loved heavy rock and listened to it on the player in all the lessons. Besides, she was very, very hooligan. Her past antics were legendary, and the current ones amazed him with enviable regularity. She obviously did not think about the future and rarely condescended to study, as well as to attend school. In other respects, the visits were rather formal. At least, judging by his lessons, in which she regularly told her roommate where she was yesterday and what she was doing there. In general, there is something to drive the ever-good boy crazy. And the religion to which she seemed to formally belong was not the same as his. And it was very important to him. He was very religious. And religion, as you know, can do things that no God can do, and no God would have thought of. She can despotically forbid representatives of different faiths to love each other. And he suffered. Outwardly, she also didn't look like an ideal or a beauty at all. And she was far from a pretty girl. She was pale, terribly pale, short, almost completely white hair, pale skin, pale thin lips, fragile build. The favorite color of the clothes, black, only emphasized its dimness. And her eyes were pale blue, too, faded, if not for the gaze, boring, defiantly defiant. He dreamed of that look every night. She was an ethereal being to him. She was also almost the only one of the 25 girls in the last 2 grades who hadn't made eyes at him in class. And that only raised her in his eyes. And then one day she disappeared. Of course, skipping 4 days of classes was a common thing for her. And everything would have been fine if 4 days ago she hadn't decided to take a walk through the terrible forest. Another of her crazy escapades. She had 3 of her friends with her at the time. At the agreed time, they dispersed through the forest in different directions and agreed to return in 3 hours. They had argued about something, and the girls were now wondering why they had done it. 3 hours later, they returned, but she didn't. Of course, the alarm was immediately sounded. The police have been combing the terrible forest, but so far without success. He found out about the incident on the 4th day. He immediately had a bad guess, and he realized that he had to go on a search himself. For the sake of her life, for the sake of their unfulfilled love, I must. Just in case, he left a note at the door, where he indicated where he had gone, and headed towards the terrible forest. First, he walked through the park, and his bad guess was immediately confirmed. The police were diligently combing the park. They were afraid to go into the terrible forest. He wasn't afraid yet. He was determined and walked boldly towards the terrible forest. The further he went in there, the taller, more gnarled and scarier the trees became. The park was a young part of the terrible forest, so it didn't make such a creepy impression. The going became soft, thick dark green moss appeared underfoot. He did not notice how the chain with the religious symbol on his neck came undone and, sliding down his clothes, fell on the soft moss. Now there were two chains lying there. The girl he was looking for had entered the forest in the same place. Don't think, the forest was not in the power of the devil. On the contrary, he maliciously disobeyed him, but the inhabitants of the forest liked to embarrass uninvited guests, so religious symbols were removed from everyone without exception, and when leaving the forest, if any, they were returned safe and sound. Speaking of the devil, he heard a woman's voice not far away. A beautiful, high-pitched voice singing a song in English. A wild song that often used the words hell and devil. The voice was certainly beautiful, but not at all pleasant. Soon he saw the owner of the voice. A woman was walking towards him. She was incredibly beautiful, cheerful, and calm. She didn't seem to sense the threat in the air and felt at home here. She had a wreath of lilies on her head, and in her hands was a bouquet of large, beautiful flowers. The bouquet and the wreath glowed slightly in the twilight. When she noticed him, she stopped talking and smiled predatorily. "Hello, sweetheart. Hello. What are you doing here so late? I'm looking for... Not me, by any chance? And here I am, I've already found it. No, a girl. Blonde with short hair. She's probably dressed in black, as always. Have you met her?" "I have. We were talking. A very smart girl." "Where is she?" "She went there." The woman waved her hand vaguely. "Yes, why are you so worried? Why do you need her? Now you have me. And who are you? And why did he just ask?" "I'm the devil." "The devil?" He slapped his chest, but the chain was gone. "Calm down, even if you were, it wouldn't scare me. I always thought the devil was a man." "You thought quite correctly. I have a brother." Inwardly, he was very confused. Outwardly, only slightly. The woman was struck by this contrast, shrugged her shoulders and continued on her way. As for the outward signs of embarrassment, he was really good at hiding them. You'll learn here if every day, when you open the classroom, you hear something like this behind your back. He. He's shy. Let's seduce him. After all, the 11th grades really got impudent in the end. He walked along, not understanding the road, deep in thought. And in such a dangerous place as a terrible forest, this should never be done. You will instantly lose your vigilance, and immediately he was knocked off his feet and pinned to the ground by something heavy. When he came to his senses, he saw two hands without thumbs on his shoulders with long, pointed claws. 3 huge rat heads bent over him. It was the famous werewolf, who was used to scare all those who liked to walk by the mirror pond and pick lilies. He stared at the werewolf in shock for a few seconds. As always happens in such situations, completely inappropriate thoughts flashed through his mind. Well, just like in the Nutcracker. I wonder what he looks like in human form. By the way, the werewolf looked quite ordinary in human form, but he was really a rare rat in character. Meanwhile, the young physicist tensed up and abruptly threw the rat off himself. Then he quickly jumped to his feet. The werewolf, accustomed to quick victories, clearly did not expect this, but he did not lose his head, stood up on his hind legs, and, leaning on the guy with his front paws, clumsily jumped on him and knocked him down again. The werewolf weighed very, very decently, and that's what he always took. He already opened his mouth, intending to bite out the guy's throat, and then calmly eat him while still warm, but the physicist didn't waste any time either. He found a long, thick stick in the grass and, swinging as far as possible, struck hard at the far left muzzle. With a nasty cry, the werewolf broke off and flew to the side of his left incisor. Blood poured from the nose of his left head. The young teacher took the stick in both hands and abruptly threw them up. Now all three faces were covered in blood. The werewolf was breathing heavily, choking on blood. The guy threw him off and got to his feet. It was dangerous to leave the rat alive, but he couldn't finish it off either. Well, yes, he couldn't kill a living being, even a rare rat. And is he a teacher or not a teacher after all? He has to do good. In general, while he was thinking like that, the werewolf came to his senses a little and prepared for a new jump, but then he saw something behind the physicist's back, which made him change his mind and quickly ran away. The guy turned around and started in surprise. Behind him, a large building without windows loomed black in the twilight. And he had seen something like this before. Something like a sarcophagus at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Only it's made much better solidly, without a single crack or crevice. What was inside was safely hidden. What scared the werewolf so much? The physicist thought. He probably runs past the building 10 times a day and 20 times a night. However, the guy did not seek to find out the answer to this question. That was not what he had come for. We need to look for the girl. If not him, then who? Should I bypass the sarcophagus? And he walked along the blank wall. He was closer than ever to understanding the reason for the werewolf's fear. Because a glowing silhouette came out from around another corner to meet him. It was something more terrifying than a rat. It was about 5 meters tall and resembled a human. At least it walked on 2 legs and had 2 arms with large hands and long thin fingers. The small mouth had many small, sharp teeth. The eyes were round, purple, 3 pieces, and the head had no hair. The creature was dressed in some kind of uniform jumpsuit with an incomprehensible emblem. In his hand he held a large bitten apple. The surrounding landscape was visible through the whole being. The guy stopped. For the first time in his life he saw a ghost. And then the creature stretched out its free hand to him. Talk to me. With you? About what? About anything. I've been here a long time. And no one talks to me. Only the rat sometimes comes and retells local gossip. We used to talk for a long time, now we're tired. Did you see how she ran away today? She saw me. He's afraid I'll make him tell you. Listen, is a rat a man or a woman? The rat explained it to me for a long time, but I don't understand the difference. Where I come from, we're all the same. But what about you? Well, yes, okay. Where are you from? I'm from there. The ghost pointed a long finger upward. The starry sky was barely visible through the branches. Why are you here? I don't like to tell this long and sad story. I've hated apples ever since. And how do you know the language so well? I've been here a long time. Listen, did the girl pass through here? Blonde, dressed in black. I was passing. We talked to her. And where she went? There. Here, thanks. I'll go to her. Of course. Come visit me again. Let's talk. The physicist ran in the indicated direction. Many different eyes glittered out of the darkness, and threatening rustles could be heard. He noticed them, but did not attach importance to them. Something glittered behind the trees, and soon the physicist saw a small pond. It was a mirrored pond. On its surface lay large bluish lilies of wondrous beauty. He was hot, and he sat down by the pond and was about to scoop up water with his hands, but stopped. A light breeze was blowing, but the surface of the mirror pond remained absolutely still. Trees were leaning over the pond, and bright stars were reflected in the water. The pond was a dangerous place, usually with a werewolf roaming around it, couples in love who had come for lilies, and single lovers who wanted to prove their love and came for lilies, were waiting for them. But for the physicist, the pond was almost safe. The rat had already been here and warned the wolf not to mess with this psycho. The physicist looked around. The girl was not there either. He heard singing not far away. An elderly but not unpleasant voice sang in perfect French, "I Have No Regrets" by Edith Piaf. Yes, did you all agree? Everyone's singing, he thought. Meanwhile, a small old woman with a basket came out onto the shore of the pond. There were flowers and herbs in the basket, probably medicinal, which exuded an intoxicating smell. The old lady had bright red eyes that glowed in the dark. The physicist noticed this, but did not attach importance to it. Granny smiled sweetly, revealing her 4 remaining teeth, and all of them were fangs. "Hello, grandson. Did you come for the lilies?" "No." "That's strange. Then please pick a couple for me, because it's hard for me to bend down. Listen, you're covered in blood, black-eyed. And the blood isn't yours." "Well, yes." He picked the lilies. "Thanks. And pick one for your girlfriend. She'll like it." "I have. I'm just looking for her." "Have you seen her?" "No." "Is she chubby?" "No, she's skinny." "Are your cheeks rosy?" "No, they're pale." "Then I don't want to see her." "Why?" "It doesn't matter. You'd better lean over to me. I'll tell you something." "No, you don't have to. Go find your girlfriend. Maybe you'll find it if it hasn't been eaten yet. Goodbye, grandson. Goodbye." And he moved on. The darkness of the night was slowly dissipating. He had long since stopped navigating the area and now hoped only for a miracle. Something flashed to his right. He turned in that direction. It was the eyes. Glowing human eyes again. Only Grandma's iris glowed, but here the whites radiated a soft light. The eyes were dark blue, almost black. He stared into them and couldn't tear himself away. A woman's silhouette was clearly outlined in the pre-dawn twilight. Her skin was dark blue. Stars sparkled on her long dress and in her hair. She had a charming smile on her dark, full lips and those eyes. Their inviting light. He forgot about everything, forgot why he had come, just stared and stared at the dark silhouette and radiant eyes and knew that now he would not leave her anywhere. She held out her arms to him, and he held out his arms to her and stepped forward. And then, for the 3rd time that night, he heard singing. Again, something about the devil, but in Russian. The voice was bad, and the singing was fake, but he was more glad to hear it than ever. He shook off his stupor and ran towards the voice. Of course, she was the culprit of the search and the eternal truant. All white, she looked bluish in the fading twilight. She had a wreath of lilies on her head and a bouquet of large, beautiful flowers in her hands. The wreath and flowers glowed slightly. Her face expressed utter happiness and peace, which was replaced by surprise when she saw her teacher here. "Where have you been wandering all this time? This is the 4th day we've been looking for you." "The 4th day? Really? Really? Let's get out of here. Is there blood on you? Are you hurt? I'll tell you on the way." They got out of the terrible forest quite safely. They also found their chains. The terrible forest does not need a stranger. He was also fired from school a week later. However, he easily got a job in another one. It's just that one person saw them coming back together that day and told the director about it with a bad hint. And this man was a rare rat by nature. September 30th, 2006.